So welcome everyone. My name's Kelly Jenkins. I am the Director of Business Development for ICF Colorado, and we're delighted that you're joining us today for International Coaching Week, which this week is a celebration of the power of coaching in action, and what's hosted by the Colorado chapter of the International Coach Federation, or the ICF. So the ICF, for those of you that don't know, is the premier professional organization for coaching worldwide. And the Colorado chapter is committed to the advancement of professional excellence in coaching across our great state. We host a wide variety of webinars, in-person talks, and group discussions where we share and learn ways to be better coaches, build thriving businesses, and help our clients succeed. Before I introduce Chris today, I just wanted to run through a few logistical items. So this is a 60-minute webinar, timed to a T by Chris. So that means we'll be ending promptly at 2 p.m. For anyone who hasn't yet, please make sure your sound is on mute in the bottom left-hand corner of the Zoom application. And if you have any questions, we're going to be using the chat feature today. We'll be monitoring that throughout the webinar, and we'll be trying to answer the questions as we go along. And then in the top right-hand corner, for anyone new to Zoom, you have the speaker gallery view toggle button. Feel free to play around with that and use it as it works best for you. With a large group, which we're anticipating today, speaker view may be your better option. And then finally, we will be using breakout groups today. So if anyone happens to be dialed in using both a computer and an audio phone system, please make sure that you just choose one of those because when we get to the breakout groups, there's a possibility that you'll get split between two different rooms, and we don't want that to happen. So one of the things that we want to make sure today is that this is a really interactive experience. So we're asking you to share openly, to engage, and to support the community that's on the call today. Anything that happens in the breakout groups will remain confidential, but we are recording this webinar and we'll be sharing it with all of the ICW registrants at the end of this week. And so with that, I'd love to introduce Chris Coward, our speaker today, on the 5 ways to lead powerfully during uncertain times. Chris is a credentialed executive coach and facilitator in leadership development. She partners with individuals and teams in both large and small organizations using a strengths-based approach to improve their communication, productivity, leadership presence, and relationship management. Chris is also the Vice President of Coaching Services for Apollo Health, where she develops and manages coaches to work in disease-specific programs that help people change their health through lifestyle changes. Chris is the president of the ICF Colorado chapter. She also plays bass guitar in a Denver area band, for those of you that enjoy music, and she loves everything outdoors with her husband and dog, Ralph. So with that, Chris, I'll hand it back to you.
All right, Valerie, that's not funny. Is it funny? You're muted, thank God. All right, well, hi, everybody. Thank you, Kelly. You do this moderator thing really well. Next year, we're going to have you do a webinar. You step up to that. So I want to say hi to everybody. What I really want to do that I'm not going to do because it'll take too much time is to call out everybody by name, which feels really engaging. But since there's 40 people on here, I'm not going to do that. So this topic, gosh, 5 ways to lead powerfully. This has been on my mind since the start of the pandemic. I'm holding this space for myself of both leader, if you can mute yourself when you come on, thank you. Both in a leadership role and just as a human experiencing the pandemic, and it's been a trip. And what I'm seeing with my clients has been probably what you're all seeing either for yourself as a leader or with your coaching clients, like uncertainty, which you can Google that word now and it comes up in everything. Uncertainty, like that's a normal word that right now is so hot. And I didn't realize that my title I would get 10 more webinar invites for things that have that title in it. But just fear and changes in how we're doing business, a concern of what things are going to be like when the quote pandemic lifts and things go back to quote normal. What does that mean for teams and companies? Fiscal concerns, people dealing with having to lay off folks, and feeling so bad about that. Of course, that sucks for everybody in that case. and just working more hours, finding time. There's no such thing as work-life balance in these times. It's all life. You know, you're working from Zoom, and your daughter's trying to get her homework done behind you, and all these things are going. I've seen a whole bunch of my colleagues' kids that I've never met on Zoom because they need help. You know, while this is going. Well, actually, Lorraine, hi. Wait, is that your shoulder? No, I thought it was a child. Never mind. I can really see with these glasses. This kind of thing. But anyway, so there's so much going on, and I know you guys are seeing it too. And so I wanted to talk about today, like, what do you need to consider in your leadership around your own resilience, and how will you lead differently? What's going to support you in leading during these times? And you've already gotten started. I know there's a lot of wisdom in the room as well, and let's hear that too. So as you guys have ideas about what I'm talking about, best practices, things that have worked for you, questions, you know, please put them in the chat, because that's going to be our main way to engage until we do a couple breakouts. So without further ado, let me jump to my slides. Okay. Oh, wait, I'm not sharing my screen though. Hold on a second. All righty. Share screen. Boom, boom. Okay. So these are the 5 things that I have been thinking about and playing with myself. I'm sure many of you might be thinking, and there's 5 more at least, right? So here they are, and these are the ones I'm going to talk about today. First one, practice extreme self-care. This is a big one for me, and I'll lean into this one quite a bit. Being both transparent in your leadership and providing hope at the same time. Using effective communication. And what does effective communication mean in a time of crisis like this? Eliminate binary thinking. And the last one, finally, set and hold boundaries. And that's for thinking about yourself and your team as well. So this is my pandemic dog. I just got him a month ago. This is Ralph, who Kelly was referring to. Good. He's very photogenic. He would be an example of extreme self-care for me. Some of these are going to be very obvious to you, and some of them may not be, right? I'm not going to provide a lot of detail because I want to make sure that we can get into some engaging breakouts to get you guys thinking.
Where are you going? Oh,
mute. So the first one is sleep. There's a million, I'm exaggerating, but there are so many studies about the importance of sleep, even not during a pandemic, and the connection to resilience, the processes that happen in your deep sleep of autophagy, which is essentially kind of cleaning your cells out, which contributes to brain health. You know, you might find yourself, as I have, I've had times during this pandemic where I've needed even more sleep than the 8 hours that I love to get. And that's okay. So I'm basically giving you permission. If you need more sleep, take it. Take it. Meditation. Again, each of these things I could talk a lot more about, but I need to be brief with them because there's just a lot here. Whatever your practice is, however you want to start, I like mindfulness meditation, and this again is a time, if this is dusty for you, to dust off that practice and bring it back. It really can help in so many ways, in terms of really just getting some mental clarity, some grounding, just time for you. It changes your brain, and there's a whole lot on this. If meditation in any way is new to you, I have a resource slide at the end, and you'll get the slides that'll give you some ways to get started. Some apps that work great: Headspace, Calm, Insight Timer, and website that you can go to for all things mindfulness. Exercise, my guess is everyone here knows this, but it's, again, these are all good when we're not in a pandemic, but when we are, all these things are even more important. So what exercise does for you, of course, right? It again, can create less stress in your mind and body. It helps you a little bit prevent the COVID-19 cushion, the COVID cushion, as we call it. I noticed I was getting that, and I had to get a little more extreme in my self-care here. And yeah, you all know this. There's some specific exercises that are particularly helpful. You really want to get that combination of strength, aerobic, and stretching as well. And so you may want to mess with your exercise practice a little bit to make sure you're getting all three, because they all have different benefits to your system. Getting outside in nature. I'll tell you one thing, the beautiful thing about getting a dog is that, guess what? He's got to go out like 2 to 3 times a day. So I am out, and I love it. And before I got him, I knew that was a way that I could build my resilience and ground myself. Connection with friends and family. Yeah, this is so huge. One of the downfalls of this place that we're in is social isolation. And unfortunately, as much as we can connect on Zoom like we are now, it's not the same, right? We do not have that same release of oxytocin that we get when we're around live with somebody. And then somebody like many of us on this call, we're Zooming all day for work, right? And because we may have a virtual work or businesses, etc. And so I thought it was just very funny when my friends at the beginning of this said, there's this great app called Zoom, download it and we can all get together. Like all my high school buddies, I'm like, I'm on Zoom all day. I don't want to do that. I want to see you. I don't want to do that. So this part is important, in figuring out a way to do this. And I've had some fun ways too. My family, my siblings initiated a Coward Family Trivia Night that we debuted on Saturday afternoon, and it was so much fun. And that was a fun way to use Zoom, because we were actually playing a game and connecting. So there's a lot of ways to do this. There's another app actually called House Party that's got a little different vibe to it. It's less work-like. So if you want to just even transition to that with your buddies, that might be a way to mix it up a little bit. Okay, next one is mindful self-compassion. And Kelly, I saw in the chat, Kelly Voorhees, something around that you're doing this work as a resilience resource for you. And I'm a big fan of this, that around being, so you're thinking about what are those messages that you've been telling yourself that are not as nice as you would be if you were giving those messages to your friend or your family or a child. And so it's extending that level of compassion to yourself as you would to somebody that you care about. And I can hear this in my clients. Some of the messages are, I'm not doing enough. We're not getting anything done. I'm ineffective. I'm a fixer, and there's nothing to fix right now because I don't have control. And just noticing in a mindful way all those thoughts, and just without judgment, just maybe asking yourself, like, if I were to be kinder to myself, what would I do differently? How would I change those questions I'm asking? And then the last one in this extreme self-care is raise your positivity. So Kelly, since I can't see the chat, are there any questions or relevant things that have come up?
No, nothing so far, Chris.
Okay. So feel free to use it, y'all, if you want to say something. Hey, Donna Reed, I can see you. You're one of the 4 on my screen right now that I can see. Okay, so positivity, raising your positivity. So this really comes from the field of positive psychology. Again, a bunch of you may be familiar, some of you may not be, but it's the science of what is going right with people versus traditional psychology, which is really kind of what is wrong. And this is a very generalized thing. So no offense to people that would be able to give a much more in-depth explanation than what I just said. But essentially what I wanted to show was just an example of some of the things that you can do to raise your positivity. When you can raise your positivity, you're raising your resilience. When you're raising your resilience, you're showing up differently as a leader than you are when your positivity is low. And this is not to push away real feelings that show up. In the course of this pandemic, I've cried more. I've had more fear about things than I've had. I've had anxiety that I never have. They're fleeting. You know, I've been watching this Netflix show. It's really funny that I think Val, you turned me on to it, Schitt's Creek. And, you know, every little sappy moment, it's like, I start, you know, all these tears come and I'm like, well, that's not, you know, this is Hollywood. Like, why am I so tapped in? And I think it's really from what's going on. And yet I'm a positive, optimistic person. And one of the ways that I kind of keep that going to serve me and to serve my clients and to serve my teams is I created a little, really kind of an exercise for myself. So these things I have listed in my notes section of my iPhone. And what I do, I'll actually show you on my phone if I can. Oh, you probably don't. Can you see this? So this is just, I set alarms
Yeah.
on my phone. Yeah, great. And so when it goes off, I just take a moment and I choose something from this list. And this list could be a lot longer. And in fact, if you guys have some other things that are working for you, put them in the chat because I think they'll be helpful for everybody. So I won't get into detail with all these things and the why, but again, they're all scientifically shown to raise positivity. And one thing, if you try this exercise for yourself, which I do recommend, is be careful to use the variety because you can be desensitized. Like the first week I did this, I found myself, okay, I'm outside, yay, and I'm calling a friend, you know, and I was skipping things like, you know, I gotta notice my gratitude and let me use celebrate small wins. Like, what are my wins? You know, so it gets you into that space. So I'll be curious to hear if you all try something like this, how it works for you.
Chris, we have a couple of examples from people. Vanessa
Beautiful.
said
Let's
she
hear them.
reads her horoscope and either laughs or it gives her focus for the day. Carl says he thinks about who he needs to connect with or who he should forgive. Valerie dances to great music, and Becky is watching Some Good News on YouTube.
Ah, you found good news, Becky. I like it. That's news. Yes, news is to lower your positivity. Watch the news, by the way. Don't let that be a goal. I'm just kidding. So I talked about binary thinking, right? So this sense of it's either this or it's that, you know, so who am I in this moment or how am I wired? I'm this or I'm that. And we all know, right, that is pretty limiting thinking, right? Because there's so much in between. And not only that, if you are somebody who leans hard into a particular style, like I said, I have clients are like their pride in their leadership is that they're fixers. And this is a tough area to be a fixer in. And yet that there's way more to them than that. And so how can they lean into other parts of themselves to show up most effectively with their teams and their organizations, you know, and their families, et cetera. So I've just been playing with, this is just 5 binary continuums, and there's way many more. And again, this is another place if in the chat, if you want to add to this list, this or that you've been thinking about, you know, good, bad, there's so many out there. It might be helpful to contemplate that as well. But this sense of like, I need to know, or I know I'm someone who always has information and data, and that's my sweet spot on how I contribute, versus I'm in a learning mode. I have no idea what's going to happen next. I'm just, you know, gathering the data day to day, and it changes, and I'm in this learning mindset, and what I share today, I may have to change my mind and do something else tomorrow. You know, thoughtful reflection you know, I'm an analyzer. I need time to think about this. And I know I'm getting a lot of push, but I really need to hang out in this reflective analysis versus, no, I am known for, I make decisions quickly and that's what I'm going to do. This one is kind of what I mentioned is the definition of positive, not the definition, but an aspect of positive psychology, like focus on what's wrong, focus on what's working, and everything. Just the invitation is to, where are you on these? Is there any binary in your thinking, right? I have some days where I think this pandemic just sucks, like period. And then I have some days where, no, this is amazing. There's a rebirth that's going to happen. Where this is shaking the world in a good way, and something is going to come out of this. And it's neither, and it's both. So it's really just taking this in, and more importantly, how does this impact your leadership when you are experiencing binary thinking? When Kelly and I were talking about the setup for this, she gave a beautiful, actually, Kelly, why don't you share the metaphor? You'll do it better than me around this, the surfing.
Yeah, and it comes from polarity thinking, and this sense that, you know, when you're on a surfboard, you can't lean too far one way or the other, or you're going to end up in the water. But at the same time, you're not static. So there's always this kind of constant motion between the two poles that allows you to remain in balance. So it's not one way or the other, and it's not static in the middle. It's constant movement. Beautiful.
Well, this is going to lead us into our first breakout, and Kelly will tell you about how that goes down. And all I'll leave you with is of your task of what you'll be talking about with your partner in the breakout, which is, where do you show up in this binary thinking, and what would serve you if you were to move over a little bit on the continuum of whatever that thing is. It could be something on the binaries on the slides that I shared. It could be one that you just recognize for yourself that I didn't share on the slide. Does this make sense? How is this showing up in your life and your leadership? You can answer either way. And what would it be like to slide over a little bit on that line? And Kelly, you want to talk? Do you need to say anything about breakouts?
Yes, I'm just making some adjustments so that no one's left in a room by themselves. So we're going to send you into breakout rooms, mostly pairs. There might be a couple of triads. You're going to have about 7 minutes once you're in the room to have a conversation around those questions, and then you'll be yanked back into the main room. So I'm about to press the button. I will invite you to accept that invitation and head to the breakout rooms, and we'll see you back here in 7 minutes.
Welcome back, y'all. If you don't mind, anything that you feel like you took away and learned from that very quick breakout, type in the chat. Just any little piece of learning for you that you took from that pairing, or triad, I should say.
Where is the chat? Oh, here it is.
There it is.
Wait.
And if you are on this call, if you could also just mute, just to make sure the quality of our recording remains good.
Hello. Everyone back, Chris.
Hi.
Yeah, welcome back, everybody. Oh gosh, Carl, that's funny. So I was responding to Laura's request to type in what the slide said and the action for you, and the chat was disabled. I didn't, because my experience is that it didn't do that, but so sorry about that. I wrote all that out and you didn't get to use it. So as you come back, just any quick learning that you, or takeaway that you got from that very short exercise, just type it in the chat. And I'm going back to where I won't be able to see. Am I muted?
No, I should have unmuted you, Chris. I can hear you.
Oh, okay, great. All right. anything come through that we should acknowledge on the chat, Kelly?
So people talking about integrating rather than the challenge of balancing. Becky, expanding my thinking of how my coaching is changing in the face of the pandemic. Joan says age and experience helps improve your ability to move away from binary thinking.
Ah, yes. Yeah, I look forward to getting there.
A couple of people have said that. Barbara says being able to choose our reactions.
I love that. Good. Well, thanks, you guys. So I'm going to get into the extra pieces, and then we'll do one more sort of integrative breakout, so you guys can get into create maybe an action step for yourself that you can walk away with. And it wouldn't be a webinar led by a coach if we didn't have some action for you to leave with. So this next one is point that I want to make about leading in this uncertain time is this is probably another polarity, like being both transparent and providing hope. And I feel like the more leaders I work with and reflect on this for my own leadership, it's really holding this space for both to happen. And it's not as easy as it sounds. So what does that mean, right? Being transparent. Here's what we know. Hey, here's what we don't know. Here's what I don't know. And yet I am keeping my eye on the health of the company and you all and myself, and we are going to get through this, and there is hope, and I am looking for the bright spots, and we are still strategizing the best that we can do. And for the human side of this, this could look like, you know, I shared something very emphatically one day and new information comes in and I have to take that back. And that is very uncomfortable for a lot of leaders that I work with, to be that way, to be feeling like decisive and for lack of a better word, just feeling wrong, you know, about what they put out. So this is a great place to practice if you're a leader and this is daunting, is to how do you show up this way? So I work with somebody now who you know, on his team, hey, he's everyone's been able to go remote, and he's definitely a results driven guy and very uncomfortable with vulnerability and being too transparent, unless it's being the blunt side of transparency. But you know, would be somebody that would say, like, they don't need to know this about me, right? They just have to do the work. I don't need to share about myself. And so that's something that we've been working with, and this has been just a great place to practice, because he's finding that as he shows up with his realness and transparency and gets people together and allows them to chime in with what's real for them, what's going on for them, what are their questions, there's a stronger connection, and people are continuing to work because the things that need to get said are getting said. So I hope that makes sense. I'm just going to look at my notes for a second, see if I missed anything.
Yeah, Chris, Jennifer also made the point that being transparent is showing vulnerability, which builds trust. And Becky said also letting go of perfectionism is necessary.
Yes, well said, y'all. Spoken like true coaches. And I love the work of, just from a resource standpoint, on vulnerability from Brene Brown. And one of her I don't know, truisms that she puts out a lot is, you can't have courage without vulnerability. And if you are just new to her and haven't been exposed to her teachings, one good place to start is her TED Talks, but the other is she's got a Netflix special that you can stream. So anyway, she's great. Brenda got a thumbs up on that. Oh, that's fun. The first little reaction button. Playing with Zoom. All right, moving on. Okay, next one, effective communication. Okay, so obviously we always want to effectively communicate. Of course we do. I feel like there's some nuance and a few little differentiating points when you're effectively communicating during a crisis, during uncertain times, during a pandemic. I'm finding that a little more directness can be really helpful. So if your style is, well, like mine is, I'm a very collaborative leader, and I really prefer people to lean into their own solutions, I think, because I'm a coach. And if they're going off the rails, certainly I'll provide my input candidly and bring them back. So, but a direct, like, this needs to happen now, we need to do this, with a little less collaboration is a stretch for me, but I'm finding it the best approach in many ways. It's sort of like what's being called for. I coach people that it would have a similar issue, that this is a stretch for them. And I coach people where they probably are direct communicating probably too much in regular time, not during a crisis. And they're finding that very easy. They're like, oh, this is how I already am. This is excellent. Compassion. And we can't forget about people here, right? No matter what your responsibilities are, you're working with human beings who are struggling, who have their own individual take on what's happening and how that's impacting them. And if you are ever in doubt how to show up, productivity, compassion, on that kind of binary thing, lead with compassion. It's the way that I don't know, I just feel strong about that it's right, that you're going to get the best from people. And it's what's really needed right now in this whole world. So another aspect of this is frequency. So we've found that more frequent communication is helpful right now. So I'm finding some leaders I'm working with are stepping up their Zoom leadership meeting game and having more than they've ever had. And this is hard for introverts. They're like, I just want to do the work. Like, I don't want to have to face the nation, every week, with the lowdown. But they're getting a lot of bang for their buck in being a little uncomfortable in doing that. And frankly, they're getting better at it too. And it pays off. So more frequent communication. We talk about transparency and vulnerable. I won't say that again. And addressing the whole organization. If you run a whole team, if you run a whole organization, they want to know where your head's at. This is time for what a thought leader I follow, Brendan Burchard, calls the role model mindset. Thinking of yourself as a role model, and who do you want to be as a role model? Who would you look up to as your own role models? And part of that is really having that touch throughout the whole organization, even when you have very capable leaders underneath you. Does anyone have any questions about that? Or comments?
Chris, Donna makes a comment about compassion and saying that the hard part is really getting people to understand what that truly means, and that it's often a misunderstood term. And then Brenda was talking about directness.
I feel like I would love to dig into that, but I also am worried about time. Yeah, directness. What did Brenda say about directness?
Directness depends on the listener and where they're coming from, and in terms of how much directness they need.
That is so true. That is
so
so
Renee
true.
says,
Good.
It seems you're saying that frequency is connected to compassion in crisis. Right, that seems to be somewhat of a question there.
Yeah, I don't know if I was making that connection. It's more of an and. So however you can show up compassionately, maybe it is that, because if your frequency of communication includes that caring component and really checking in with your team and seeing how they're doing as human beings, then sure. But for some, like, sometimes the frequency also just includes the communication needs to increase because the data changes so fast. The information comes in so fast, the direction is switching more because, again, we're not operating quite in the same way. So it could really be either. How's that for gray? All right, so setting and holding boundaries. This is the fifth thing. And when I think about this one, I'm thinking about for you as individuals, I'm thinking about for you and leading your team as well. You know, one of the big boundaries that you decide on for you is how much news serves me, right? Is it a little bit, I mean, is it none on a daily basis? And you'll just figure in that the people in your life will let you know if you need to do something. Is it maybe a very boundaried 15 minutes a day? That's kind of what mine is. And that's all I want, because it brings me down, and it's not, I don't find it necessarily helpful in my work. And but again, that might be different for you depending on what you do. Who needs me the most? So when I'm thinking about people that I work with and support and lead, that's going to shift. And who needs me the most? I was about to co-facilitate a group, and one of the coaches, who was sort of was going to be an observer, texted me 10 minutes before the group and said, "I'm really sorry. I want to be on and I can't. I think my daughter has corona and I need to go attend to that." And talk about who needs me most, right? Yes, I'm going to do my group as a professional, but I'm making a phone call to that coach after to check in, because right then and there, she needs me the most. And I want to show that I care about her and find out what's going on. The work life boundary, and where do I cut off my work, say, okay, I know there's a lot left, but I'm going to be done. And this again, this is not unique to the pandemic. And then give attention to my family and myself. And again, these are all individual solutions for yourself. This concept of determining what is your top priority and how can you anchor to that. And I distinguish priority from goals. This isn't not the same as goals. And really your priority is more in your being. Like, how do I want to show up in all this that I can anchor onto? Where when I'm about to address my team, when I'm going to be with my family, when I'm going to decide how I want to take care of myself, what is the priority there? You know, and so being compassionate is a big one for me. And I always want to be able to anchor into that, even if I'm pushing a little bit to get results done and things like that. I want to be able to hold that. Being aware of distractions. So this is a mindfulness piece, and how these trigger you, right? And how do you put them in their box, in their place as a distraction, so you can be focused on what's important to you. And that could be drama at work, and it could be the news. It could be, gosh, you know, it could be somebody in another department at work who is struggling and maybe just having a lot of trouble. And although you want to be supportive, like you've kind of done everything that you can do, and you're finding it such a distraction that you're not taking care of your own stuff. So whatever that is for you, I know it's going to be different for everybody. Okay, so Kelly, I'm aware of time here. Whoops, We're not there. We're going to breakout. So we're
ready to go into breakout rooms whenever you are.
Yes, good. So we're going to hit the breakouts again, and this time the instruction really is on a wrap-up side of everything that I've thrown at you today. And I know it's a lot in our short time. What do you want to play with and put into action in your own life? And it could be one very small thing. It could be a big thing. It's whatever that is for you. And just share that with your partner in your room.
Well, I hope you got value from just that piece, just knowing that that it doesn't have to be big. If you're feeling a little overwhelmed, then just take something small, right? And hopefully you got that from this, with the support of a beautiful room of people. So I want to add in my support too. If this material, like, you want to bring it into your lives as either a leader or a coach working with leaders, any of that, feel free to reach out to me. I'm happy to provide just a free 30-minute time with you on implementing this and making it individualized for you, where we can dig into any part of this that I couldn't go very far with, getting into it a little bit more further with you. And you'll get these slides, and there's a calendar link too. yeah, email works, and any of it really. So I just wanted to put that out there as a gift to keep the conversation going. And I mentioned some resources, and I put them into a couple, I didn't put them out for everything, but in spaces that I thought you might be interested. So, you know, mindfulness and some meditation apps. There's a 7-minute workout app that's pretty fun that I was using that for a while. And it doesn't have to just be 7 minutes, but you can actually get a full body HIIT workout in 7 minutes. And a resource for positive psychology, and my favorite resource guy on sleep, Matthew Walker. His stuff is it's compelling. You'll sleep. You might sleep when you read the book because it's a little nerdy, but it is it's very well done. His research is important. And mindful self-compassion. There's a great website for that if you want to dig into that more. The work of Kristen Neff and Chris Germer. And then these were a couple articles. I really like Harvard Business Review, like their website and their articles that come out. And this is in the leadership development space that I'm most interested in there. But these were a couple articles that stood out to me that influenced my thinking that I thought if you wanted to check out, they're being generous now. I think these are free just to read. You can just click on the links. So you'll get those. And that is my last slide. So I thank all you guys for being on here, and I appreciate your time. You could be doing a lot of things during this hour, and I'm really grateful that you came here to share this work with me. And I wish you the best with everything, and we'll hopefully be in person together with a bunch of you all down the road, and I don't know when. So anything, Kelly?
Thank you.
Sign off. Oop, I don't know if you are, Kelly, you might be muted.
There she goes.
Perfect. Thanks, Chris.
Thank you.
I forgot about this part.
Yeah, I was just going to say, for anyone, this is one of 10 free webinars that are being offered this week by ICF Colorado chapter members in celebration of International Coaching Week. It's not too late. We still have 4 more webinars before the week ends. So if you want more details or to register, please go to our website at icfcolorado.org, ICW/ICW 2020. And then
Yes.
if you've enjoyed our webinar today, we want to welcome each and every one of you to come to one of our ICF Colorado chapter events. You can learn more and see our event calendar at the website. We do charge a modest fee for membership, but we do have virtual memberships available for those of you who are unable to attend our in-person events in Denver, which we hope to have up and running again very soon. But in any event, your first event after this week is free to attend using the code on the screen. So please check out our website, and we hope to see you soon at an upcoming event.